So the person trying to be nobody is a dangerous thing. Like meeting nobody people is a dangerous thing. And this is how cult leaders will abuse you, and how people in non-duality will abuse you, because they will convince you that they're a nobody. And because they're a nobody, they're always speaking God's word. And because they're always speaking God's word, they're always right. So everything that comes out of their mouth is God, or is consciousness, or is the absolute. So they're always right and you're wrong. And that's not true. That to me is not true. Maybe it's some people's feeling of what's true, but to me, nah, that is very dangerous when you begin to see it like that. So on the ultimate level, this is the absolute, experiencing, speaking, doing everything. So in this, the absolute is that the absolute is speaking the character, but the character is always bound to the realms of the character. So whatever the character says is obviously on the ultimate level the word of the divine. And when there's a disattachment from that character, there is a shift in the character, there is a change in the character that happens. There's two things that happen. Is there's an expansion back to who you are, so it turns around from being a limitation to not being limited. So the experience no longer feels limited, it feels endless. But that endlessness, who you truly are, is speaking through a character form, and that character form is limited to its particular conditions, and the character never becomes unconditioned. The character will always be updating its conditioning and its genetics, and it will be behaving through its particular conditioning and its genetics. Even though there's nothing that's claiming that anymore, there's nothing that's identified with that, the character will still work through its conditions, and the conditions of the character can always grow and improve. So it can always become nicer, kinder, more balanced, more expansive, more integrated. Somebody that's telling you that they are no longer a character and they are only free consciousness that's speaking through them, and that everything they say is the divine, is, to me, in my words, more than likely trying to use that as abuse of power over people. Because I don't know why somebody would say that, unless it was to try and convince the other that they know more than the other, and that they're going to lead the way, and that you've got to follow them. It can be a mistake. So in the past, I've most probably mistakenly said it, because it's very hard to speak about. But I never really said it to get people to follow me. It's more of a mistake. In the beginning, it was very hard for me to try to communicate what happened. So, like, I would maybe imply in some way, I don't think I ever implied there was no conditioning left, but I can't remember exactly. But it is, like, right now there is nobody speaking, but it is speaking through a character. So this is Lisa's, you could even say this is Lisa's point of view. So what I'm saying isn't absolutely right. It's the apparent point of view of the Lisa character. It's the up-to-date conditioning and understanding and recognition that goes through this body-mind system. And it always has to be like that. If it wasn't like that, then the master that's apparently nobody would suddenly be able to start speaking Japanese, or it's impossible. The character is always going to be set up in that particular way. So if you took like one master that's claiming to be empty, even that claiming to be empty is a conditioned response of that particular personality structure, but it's coming from the absolute. There's nothing that's identified with that personality structure, but it's still coming through that personality structure. So, so maybe that personality structure is a man, and it particularly likes young women and chases, or doesn't chase, but makes love with the young women. If you think that is an act of nothing acting, man, you're going to get manipulated and fooled. You're going to get talked out of yourself and into doing mean things to other people. And I've had that happen to me, and I've fallen into these traps before. And I'm still most probably unconditioning my brain from that, having been with lots of different organizations. It's not, that's a conditioned instrument. That's an instrument that has attraction to one young woman. And yes, it's obviously acting out life's will. Like that's what life is doing in that moment, but it comes through a conditioned body. And if that conditioned body was to like young men, it would go for young men. And if that conditioned body was to like animals, it would go for animals. And if it was to like old people, it would go for old people. But that's a conditioned bodily response. And it's most probably not that dissimilar before the awakening, if there was an awakening. And that. Like, so if a guru that you're following is sleeping with all the young women in the organization, that is not a non-conditioned body. That is a conditioned body. Wake up, wake up. That is a manipulation from a human that's using it as an excuse to do what he wants. That's what he wants, or that's what she wants, is to do that. And there's nothing wrong with it on the absolute, but on the human level, it's good or bad dependent on how you see things, which is down to you. It's more important to go with what your feeling is, whether you feel it's good or bad. Not good or bad on the absolute level, but on the feeling body, like whether you feel attracted to that or not attracted to that. But if they start saying it's life's will, obviously on the absolute level, it's life's will that wants to sleep with that young woman. But on the bodily level, that human is attracted, otherwise the penis wouldn't get erected. There is a desire in that body. This is such a dangerous line for non-duality. And not just non-duality, this happens in Christianity, evangelicals, I'm sure it happens in Islam and Sufism, where there is a human with power. A human with power. A human with power. And actually, I don't think it's about having morals or not morals that are inflicted on humanity. So this is right or this isn't right. You should sleep with this person. You shouldn't sleep with this, or you should behave like that. I think that the more and more the more and more the human becomes balanced and open and vulnerable and honest, the more it can just intuitively feel what's right and wrong. It can intuitively feel that walking past somebody on the street that's fallen over and bleeding and need help is not correct, and to go back to that person. And it can intuitively feel when maybe somebody's acting injured as a way to con you. Like it can intuitively feel these sorts of things as the person becomes more balanced. I feel like on the human level, we're so hypnotized by thinking that we forget that our body has so much knowledge and information. Like our genes are made up of millions and millions of years of evolution, and our body knows deeply these things. It also might be not true for all humans. Maybe some people are less sensitive. So it's not so much an inflicted morality. It's more of like a natural morality. Like there's this intuitive feeling of what's expansive. And it doesn't always maybe look moral in the sense of like maybe there's like somebody really ill on the street, and intuitively there's a feeling that there shouldn't be an interaction, or maybe something's going to help them later, or there's another person there's an intuitive feeling to help from an expansive place. So somebody's saying human nature can be so dark. Yeah, it can be really dark, and we've all traumatized each other, I think, through this. I get the sense that there's different types of humans. there is humans with empathy and compassion, and there's humans that are without empathy and compassion. And it's almost like they're two different species, maybe like Neanderthals. I always struggle with that word, Neanderthals. I can't say it. And humans. And unfortunately, I think that what's happened over the last couple of thousand years, maybe longer, is that we've been predominantly run and led by humans that have low empathy and low conscientiousness. And I think there's many reasons why that's happened. And I think that's also very hard to accept, that there's almost like these two different humans, and it's totally impersonal. But if you look at stories, so if you look at mythology, you'll begin to see that there's always this argument in humanity between good and bad. And and there's all these different stories of what goodness and badness is, and there's lots of different examples of it. But I get this sense that there's in those stories there is this this pointing to these humans that don't have empathy and conscientiousness. And a great leader is somebody that has compassion and struggles internally with some of the tough decisions that they have to make. So it actually hurts them, some of the tough decisions. So they're like like a true, in our stories, in mythology, the true hero always internally struggles with making tough decisions. Whereas the one without empathy and compassion, which predominantly leads our societies, make them easily and don't have that internal struggle. And that internal struggle is very good, because it means that character is not dominated by them succeeding and them having power. It means that they're actually dominated by the benefit of all, of trying to make it fair and successful for all. The ones that don't have conscientiousness and empathy will solely be driven by power and getting what they want. What they want. And these are two different personality types. And it's not that one is wrong or right, it's what's led us to this moment of evolution. But I just think it's really important to recognize, especially when you're talking about this subject, in the sense of this teaching, because I think a lot of teachers have tried to imply that they have these empty personalities that are only acting out God's word, and everything they do is right, superior, and better than the students. And I fundamentally disagree with this. And I think it's a perfect demonstration of somebody that is just trying to get power over other people. And I think it misleads students into believing that they one day will become a perfect superhuman, and that they have to submit to what other people or what their teacher or what the guru tells them they have to do for them, whether it be sexual, whether it be big amounts of money, whatever it be. On the ultimate level, though, there is no good and bad, and this is all one dance of one. But in the apparent dream of humans, if you're constantly following this superhuman that's always telling you you're going to be superhuman, you're going to be locked in this world of always trying to be perfect and to run away from your imperfections, and you'll be stuck in a loop of trying to be perfect. And never making it, always having to look up to this person that's more perfect than you. This is becoming truly who you are, which is imperfect, and it is embracing your imperfections. And as you embrace your imperfections on the human level, you will embrace others. And when there is a settling into what you are, as long as you're not somebody that's only focused on what they want and what they can get from the world, so somebody without empathy or compassion or conscientiousness, what will begin to happen is you'll begin to sink into this natural flow. So in becoming more yourself, you'll sink into this natural flow, which won't be greedy or selfish or only focused on your wants. Your heart will want to give to the group. Your heart will be in a place of giving and not taking. Then the people without empathy are always about taking and taking, even in telling you that they have no humanness left and they are beyond being human, is taking from you. It's a form of taking, big time. It's greediness. They're sucking in your belief to make them to make them better and more powerful. Well, you believe in these characters without empathy, conscientiousness. You will always be ignoring your natural intuitive feelings and believing your mind, your thinking mind over others, because you know it's not true deep down in your being, but you're too scared to stand alone. You're too scared to stand in yourself and say, I don't believe you, I don't trust you. So therefore you always seek for their approval, and in seeking for their approval, they always have the power over you. It's the same in relationships. To stand in what you know to be true, which is your own being on the human level, which is your own responses right here, not from a contracted place, not from a place of hatred, that's all the surface levels, but from a deep, expansive place. Like an honest place, not a place of trying to get power, of trying to get revenge, of trying to put other people down, of trying to be better than, but from this expansive place. You know what's true. It's deep. You know what wants to happen. You know which way to go. You know what you want and you don't want, but you're petrified of it because you're petrified of your own aloneness. And beyond that, so beyond the human level, so deeper than that, you are all one. You are totally alone. You're no thing appearing as everything, and that's home. That is home.